This is Continuum Drag, a weekly podcast where we revisit sci-fi, fantasy, and just plain weird shows.
This week, Earth Star Voyager, Part 1.
Before she vanished 6 years ago, Vanguard explorers sent out probes. We've just received a report from one of them. It gave us the location of that Berenson star. And in orbit around it is a planet we've named Demeter. We haven't been able to decode all the information yet. This is the best picture we can give you. We have some readings of an acceptable atmosphere, but we're still not sure if it can support life. Voyager's mission is to answer that question, because if Demeter is suitable, we're going to have to move there.
Welcome to Continuum Drag, the podcast staffed by precocious kid geniuses. I'm Luke, here with my co-host Jordan. What's real, Jordan?
I'll tell you today, I feel like a real souffle in the brain department.
I think I missed that line.
Did you? You missed that
Oh,
one?
no, wait, the gym teacher.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's my
dear.
favorite line of the entire show.
It's a pretty good line.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good line. So this week, we're watching Part 1 of the TV movie Failed Pilot. I guess it's two TV movies, really.
Yeah.
To a show called Earth Star Voyager. I'd never really heard of it before. I'm sure you hadn't.
No, I haven't.
I think I found it for our list of shows while I was doing a deep Wikipedia dive into like weird science fiction programming, and this like popped up along the way, so it ended up on the list. Aired January 17th and January 24th, 1988.
That was 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
And it was part of this thing called Disneyland, right?
Well, do you remember the Wonderful World of Disney?
I do, yeah.
That's what it is. I think at this time it may have been called the Magical World of Disney. I actually did a bit of a digging around on this because I was like, hey, that's cool. I remember that. And because obviously it was an anthology series. They just showed like various TV movies they made for it or programming they already had. But did you know it's been running since 1954?
I didn't until I looked at this and I saw that and I was like, wow, that's a really long... I mean, it makes sense because that would have been the beginning of these Colgate brings you whatever show and Polysporin brings you something else and Disney must have brought you these movies.
Did you read why Disney started doing it? Like
no,
why
I
they
didn't.
started syndicating it out to all the different networks? They did it because Disney needed to raise money for Disneyland.
Oh, well.
So this is like, that was a direct result. I mean, it's gone on and off the air a couple times for a few years at a time, but like more or less it's been on since 1954. It's crazy. I didn't even realize it was still on.
Is it still on?
Apparently it's, from what I read, there's still a variation of it going. It's crazy.
I guess it's still a good way to pay for building more theme parks?
I think
or just adding to their...
Just put it on the pile.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Scrooge McDuck pile. Also, I looked into. I was kind of curious. I'm like, well, what was on before and after Earth Star Voyager on Magical World of Disney?
And this is ABC, right?
ABC. Although I think it's been on most of the networks at
Right.
one time or another.
So what was on before and after this?
So the show before it was Flight of the Navigator.
Oh, yeah, okay.
You remember that, right?
You know what's funny? I only watched that in the last 10 years for the first time. Someone was like, you should watch Flight of the Navigator. And I'll say, the first third of that movie is amazing. It's so dark for a kid's movie, and then it becomes a kid's movie. But the first third, I was like, I'm in.
I only remembered from being a kid and being like terrified but fascinated by it.
Yeah.
And I think that must be the case. It's like the first third must be like too much to bear.
Yeah, it is. It was pretty great.
And then the after this, the week afterward, Rock and Roll Mom.
I don't remember Rock and Roll
Neither
Mom.
do I, but what a title.
It sounds like one of the ill-suited Hulk Hogan movies that were put out. It's like he's a mom and he's whatever. He's Hulk Hogan. And you're like, why? Who made this movie?
Just Hulk Hogan fans. They demanded it.
Rock and Roll Mom. Is that what it was?
Yeah, Rock and Roll Mom,
Rock and
singular.
Right. Oh, just the one mom.
Just the one mom.
Well, you know what the sequel would have been?
No moms?
Yeah.
Dad.
No, Rock and Roll Mom's the sequel, and then the third one is Rock and Roll Dad.
Rock and Roll Grandma at some point.
Yeah.
Great. Actually, we could do that. Let's bring it back. It's been
Why not?
35 years. Rock and Roll Grandma's back. It's probably longer than that, right?
Just
40 years
leaf it
now?
through the properties and like, what do we have? Rock and Roll
I haven't
Mom.
touched this in a while. I think Heather Locklear might have been in it.
Really?
Yeah. All right. You want to get into this?
Yeah. Well, I do want to talk more about Rock and Roll Mom.
We'll watch it later for our sidecast. Here's the IMDb summary for Earth Star Voyager Part 1. The Earth Star Voyager is a spaceship sent to another solar system to prepare for colonization. Earth itself is horribly polluted, so the mission is vitally important. But as the departing starship gets underway, signs begin to emerge that their mission may unwittingly be part of a larger conspiracy. And that was courtesy of Ben Hallert.
What they forgot to mention, is that this show has an inordinate amount of scenes where no one's saying anything and just looking at something. There's a lot of those.
You think so?
Oh, yeah. There's a couple scenes where people are just like looking at a screen or just walking quietly. And what's interesting is this kind of TV movie, usually it's the opposite. They can't stop filling the screen with dialogue. It's just constantly people talking. This kind of does the opposite. Like there's obviously a lot of talking and exposition stuff, but there's also a lot of scenes of people just pushing buttons and things.
I guess. I mean, maybe you're right. I didn't find it overwhelming. I did feel like it moved at a reasonable pace, and then I was able to follow along very.
It was
easily.
definitely not overwhelming.
I was not overwhelmed by it, but it starts off in outer space,
2082.
Yeah, pretty good, right?
Yeah. We're getting there. We're getting pretty close.
We're not too far, and some great model work here, some miniature work. Like we move along a spaceship, and we see the side of it's been blown out.
It's that very Star Wars-esque shot now at the beginning, where a ship, you start seeing it's getting bigger and bigger. What they do is they go to the side, and then you can see it's clearly been damaged, and there's like sparks and stuff.
Did you catch the name of the ship?
No, I think they said it later. What was it?
The Vanguard Explorer.
That's right. Yeah.
Pretty decent name.
Mm-hmm.
What we find out is on board is Captain Jacob Brown, and he's saving a crew member from the wreckage and putting him in an escape pod.
Yeah.
But what has happened is, I guess members of his own crew have mutinied against him.
Yeah, that's what seems to be what the viewers led to believe, is that he's sort of helping this guy. He gets the guy into the pod, and just then he's going to get into a pod to shoot off to somewhere. And then I think they might say it's his second in command or something like that. The guy's sort of like, I'm taking over the ship, and he's all like, what's there to take over? You've blown it up.
The guy named Vance Arthur.
Vance, yeah.
I like their guns too. They have like 40 barrels on the front of them.
Was that right? I didn't notice.
There are 40 tiny barrels on this like front of this flat gun. But yeah, like he's here. He's just like, hey, I want you to make an announcement to the crew. I presumably saying, Vance is the new captain. Everybody.
Yeah, and that's how it works. That's how it works in the future.
Mutiny works. I think that's generally how it works.
Yeah.
But Captain Brown managed to get away with. He's a classic science fiction hero. Because do you know how he gets away from old Vance, who's got a gun on him?
He attacks him in some way, right? And then skips out the other direction.
Yeah, but what attack would a classic science fiction hero use?
It was some sort of drop kick, was it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
His go-to move is to start kicking, which is it's amazing. I think we see it anytime there's action.
And not to spoil, but later on at the end of this, there's also a lot of kicking.
Yeah, there's a lot. I'm telling you, his go-to move is always kicking. He's a real legs man, and I think you might know judo.
He is a real legs man, but it does work because he kicks the guy, jumps back up the stairs, gets himself into the pod.
Yeah, these little white plastic escape pods.
Yeah, and I think we forgot to mention that. I think there was a bit of dialogue later on where they go, there's nowhere really for them to land.
They're so far out of known space. There's no space stations anywhere. So yeah, like he shoots off, and I think Vance gets up and he's just like, "Rest in peace, Captain Brown."
Yeah.
Like that, and that's our introduction.
And
to
then
the
we
show.
go into awesome opening credits music. Did you love it?
It was a very upbeat. But I did. When it came on, I'm like, this is wonderful.
Yeah, it was so of its time and unironically presented, of just like bam, 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 and just really powerful music, like all synthy, and then also something I don't know if I've seen before in credits, which is they have the actors' faces, and they're sort of getting like...
They put like a wireframe of where the face will come, and then they like fade that into the
But did you notice it's not the actors' names, it's the character names.
That's what I found really interesting. This is, I think, how we'll get into is we learn each character's name, their job, and their age as we get into it.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
We can kind of talk about the characters. But I mean, how when you saw the characters' ages coming up, were you just like, oh no, ship of Wesley's?
Yeah. Well, especially the one kid, because he's like, what is he, 14?
He's 14, yeah.
And he's a redhead. He's got nothing going for him.
All right, let's go through them. So there's kind of, I guess, arguably our main character, Jonathan Hayes. He's the command specialist, age 21.
I'll just say this. So far, he's about as bland as possible. Would you agree?
He is he just kind of is a handsome young man.
Yes, and I would say uniformly across this show, it's all pretty wooden acting. Like no one is really knocking it out of the park.
I mean, to be fair, it is really like they have cast everyone to be like teens
Yes.
or slightly above. So we're not talking about a lot of like grown actors, I think, with a lot of experience.
Right.
That's for sure. And then, of course, here's our 14-year-old. Jesse Beanstalk, computer science is his role, and he's age 14.
And they call him Beanie.
Beanie, I know. He's that's his name throughout the show. He's a child prodigy.
Yeah.
His I believe at some point they say his IQ is off the charts. They can't even measure his IQ.
That's the best. When you get something that's off the charts, you know you've done well.
You've done really great. And at some point it's introduced that he's fixated on aliens.
Yeah, they just drop that in later. They like a third of the way through the show, they go like, "Oh, like he loves aliens," and then later on, they're like, "I bet you hope it's aliens." Yeah. I was like, "What a weird thing to see. Is he going to see aliens later and be excited? Is that what they're setting it up for?"
I don't know because not spoiling. There's no aliens.
There's no aliens
in this entire TV movie. So it was a weird. I mean, kind of fun. He's just like, I just want to see an alien for some reason.
He's like, look, this is just for you and me. He's like those cops in Inhumans that just really want to see the space dog.
Oh yeah, just want to see that space dog.
Yeah,
just once in my life.
Just once.
And then we have the next character we get introduced to in this opening title sequence is Sally Arthur, MD, Space Medicine, age 24.
Space medicine. That's the best.
I LOL at that so hard.
Yeah, space medicine, and she's got a real head of hair. She sort of looks like what's her name from Night Court.
It's very like she's 24 years old. She looks like she's a 40-year-old woman with this haircut. Like the haircut is so disconcerting because it's the wrong haircut for a woman her age.
Well, it's of its time.
That's true, but I at first had trouble determining what her age was going to be when I first. I'm like, oh, what's this haircut?
Marky Post. That's what I was thinking. Same haircut as Marky Post.
Everybody, get on Google. Try to remember who Marky Post is. Was this Night Court? Is that what you said?
Yeah, Night Court.
What a pull. And her brother, of course, was Vance from the Vanguard Explorer, who just threw the captain off the ship.
And I'll admit, I didn't catch that till later. That's who that was, because the names were just kind of coming, and I was like, oh, I'll catch up later. And then I it was a major connection you should make, is that's her brother.
Well, when they finally get to her, like they'll later, spoiler, meet up with some of the characters we saw in that opening bit, and they kind of are like, that's my brother,
right?
And of course, she is the crush of our lead Jonathan.
Yeah, they kind of lean into that a little bit later in the episode.
It is funny when they finally do like kind of reveal it. She's just like, she's discussing who she's had crushes on, and she starts talking about
professor,
her bald old professor she used to have.
Yeah,
when she found out he was married, she tried to starve herself to death to get his attention.
Yeah,
it was dark.
It was a weird chunk of dialogue that they just threw out there, and that she's telling to Jonathan, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Jonathan's not fazed at all, because he's already thinking of what he wants to say, which is, my crush was you.
Well, she's like, who is your crush? And he just like, he's like, she was a blonde lady who was really into medicine. She's like,
yeah,
that's me.
He was like, you ever seen Night Court?
You ever seen Night Court? Yeah, similar haircut.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep going. Then there's Huxley Wells.
Two on the nose. Two on the nose.
Navigation, age 18.
Yeah.
Well, what's wrong with his name?
It's dumb.
Well, what do you mean?
Because it's Huxley and Wells.
You
Come on.
You mean the authors?
Yes.
What are their names?
It's Aldous Huxley and H.G. Wells.
Yeah.
Thank you. I almost said Orson Welles for a second. I'm like, that's not right.
I mean, that could have worked too. War of the Worlds. But
yeah.
You didn't like it? It's kind of fun.
I don't know why it bothered me. It just seemed like the laziest thing to do. I don't know. It's just, anyways.
I mean,
different strokes.
And he's the only one. It's not like the whole cast is that way. He's just like one of them where he's like, let's have some fun.
Yeah, okay.
He's our ship Lothario?
Yeah.
Mark?
Well, if you consider, yes, they play a scene later on. Can I say what it is?
Yeah.
They play a scene later on where they all the characters, will explain why, have to make a sort of a last call home before they go on this mission, and they do a series of him calling a bunch of women that he clearly was having relationships with all at the same time.
And breaking up with them.
And going like, oh, no, I love you. And then, of course, you can't remember all their names, and hilarity ensues. But later on, as we'll get to it, the best love story is him and the computer.
Well, yeah, we'll get into that. But it is funny because they establish him as Lothario, but like once he's on the ship, he's not really that like flirty with anyone.
No, he doesn't do anything to warrant that reputation.
But he does do coin tricks.
That's right, yeah.
Does some coin tricks, flips it around in his hand.
That's true.
Like, what a fun guy.
Do you think the actor just knew that coin trick and they're like, oh, we got to put that in the movie?
No, that's definitely a writer's choice.
You think so?
I don't know.
It originally was like a Rubik's Cube or something. He's like, no way. Watch this.
I can't solve that. All right. So we're going to combine these two characters because they're so minor, but there's Lana Mayori, Communications 816, and Luz Sanson, Sanson? Something like that, Communications age 15. And they're kind of two communications people. They're two young women. They do not pass the Bechdel test at any point. They're always talking to each other, and they're only ever talking about hooking up.
Yeah, every scene they talk about, and almost specifically about that 14-year-old. Not exclusively, but almost always about
Well,
him.
definitely Lanny wants Luz to hook up with Beanie. She's just like, you got to do it. You got to hook up with Beanie. And she's like, I don't know if I want to. He's like, yeah, you got to. You got to hook up with Beanie. But I mean, Lana herself is just like, you guys, this crew, they're just boys. We got to hook up with them.
Yeah, well,
It is funny. I actually like, obviously, it's not the most, like, they don't give them a lot to do. So it's like,
they've got less than nothing to do.
nothing to do. But I did like, they kind of like, they're, they've kind of got a bit of a, like, there's an undercurrent through all these teens on the show. It's just like, hey, you know what we should do? We should hook up. And I'm just like, no, that's not this. Like, if you put a bunch of teens together, it's probably got some of them
Yeah,
going to want to
fair
hook up. Like, I was like, not the worst thing. And then we have Leland Eugene, MD, psychiatrist, age 22.
Oh, right, yeah. Wait, did we talk about the exercise guy?
He's not in this opening credits.
Oh, he's not in the opening credits.
Yeah,
okay.
we can come to him later. I mean, we can talk about it if you want. But
There's also a guy,
I don't know his age.
There's also an exercise guy.
I want to know why he wasn't a space psychiatrist.
And we have a space science,
Space medicine.
space medicine.
Why not space psychiatry?
Yeah, I don't know.
He, and you'll have to tell me how you feel with this. I felt like he looked exactly like Zach Wood from like Silicon Valley and Veep.
Well, you know who that is. He's one
No.
of
No.
the
I don't.
he is one of the four horsemen from the X-Files.
The Four Horsemen?
What are they called? What
The
are those
Lone
guys?
Gunmen?
Lone Gunmen. If I call them the Four Horsemen. In where I grew up, we called them the Four Horsemen. the Lone Gunman. He's one of them. The guy with the beard.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
He's good.
He is good actually in the role.
I like him.
He actually might be one of the stronger actors in this.
Well,
him and Jacob Brown.
Right. He plays it very robotic for the most part, but that's actually to do a reveal later when he's just like, he's actually kind of got a little bit of sense of humor and like people just don't, he's just like, he's good at his job. He's like smart, but like people like don't like him for it.
Remember when I called the Lone Gunman the Four Horsemen?
Everybody knew exactly what you're talking about. There's not even four of them.
No, I know. I knew it was wrong, but I was like, I think it's close.
And finally, on this list of characters we're going to meet, it's Jacob Brown, former commander, Vanguard explorer, age 36.
36. Oh, he's quite a bit older than them.
Quite a bit older. And what's fun is when we see him in that opening scene when he jumps in the escape pod, he's clean shaven. And then when he appears in this credit sequence, I'm like, oh, he's got a full beard now.
Yeah.
So much has happened to him.
Yeah. And spoiler, when we see him again, which we will shortly, he has a huge beard.
Yeah, I mean, when we finally get back to him, he's basically a hobo.
Yeah.
But he's not like, he's fine. He's a good actor and stuff. His character is like, I can't tell what, like, he's kind of a jerk. He's kind of a snarky jerk.
I don't think they ever landed on.
He's not quite Han Solo enough to pull
They
it off.
didn't quite land on what he was supposed to be, or the actor and the writers had two sort of different ideas. But you're right. He's sometimes kind of this like somewhat roguish guy. Sometimes he's a bit of an older brother figure. Sometimes he's kind of an action star. Sometimes he's kind of a bit of a man of mystery. But it's kind of depends on the scene to scene.
It's close, but it never quite gets there.
I
mean,
agree.
It's pilot syndrome basically for some of this stuff for sure. All right.
Let me ask you though, the more important question: beard or without the beard?
Oh, beard.
I agree.
Yeah, he looks great with the beard.
Yeah,
100%. Just like you.
Thanks. I do have a beard right now.
They can hear it. All right. So we jump now from space 2082 to planet Earth 2088.
Yeah, 6 years have passed.
6 years have passed. Earth is the exteriors we see are a bit like Almost Human or Blade Runner, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Exteriors rainy. It's overcrowded. We see a monorail go by.
I like the monorail.
I think it's probably I think it is shot in Vancouver, just like Almost Human. So like it has those feel and like it's great. We kind of get a little bit of world building here. We like hear what do they call it? The audio from the Supernova Lotto jackpot. And it's announcing the $172 million world dollar jackpot.
Is that what they said? World dollar?
I think that's what they said. The world dollars. What a currency.
I like though in this scene, you really do get the sense of how bad the environment is, was what they're putting forward. because it starts raining and everyone not only has umbrellas, but they have
rain jackets.
rain jackets that also have like I didn't quite catch it first, but I think it's just their oxygen things to put under their nose.
Yeah, they call them breathers. And as the rain
breathers.
As the rain starts coming, like there's an announcement saying, "Hey," like over the PA says, "Rain coming. Oxygen levels okay." And like they're just like, "Yeah, right. Like the oxygen levels here are any good at all." Like there's like this implication that like Earth is in pretty bad shape.
Yeah,
and, like you can't be in the rain, and when the rain comes, it also hurts the oxygen.
Yeah, I didn't. Whatever. Who knows? Maybe some sort of acid rain that
it
does
might work.
something,
I mean,
yeah.
it's a nice, but it is a nice piece. Like it really quickly sets up just
Yeah.
like the stakes, and we spend very little time out there because what we see is Jonathan and Beanie are kind of walking, talking about school. He's complaining that he got a 9.3 over all his straight tens.
But he's like years ahead.
Do you remember what our young genius only got 9.3 in?
No, what did he?
Because he hates it. He's like, why do I need that?
Oh, I know it was. It wasn't math or science. It was like art or something.
It was music appreciation.
Music appreciation.
He doesn't
yeah.
appreciate music.
Well,
who needs it?
who needs it?
But we do get their like save the cat moment where there's an old lady in the rain and she's having trouble breathing, and they like carry over to an emergency oxygen tent and get her breath going, and like Jonathan's like, I've got an extra breather when I left the house. Here, you take it. And she's like, thank you so much, boys. You know what they say? I'll be right as rain. And they're like, what? What does that mean?
Yeah, and
'Cause
she's
it's
like,
so
that's an old expression. You wouldn't know.
We're so far in the future. The rain isn't right anymore.
Yeah, but I was thinking about it. So this is 2088, right?
Yes.
So she's conceivably, how old do you think this woman
Let's
is?
put her at 75.
So 75. So what does that work down to? She would have been born in what, 2000?
8?
Is that right?
No.
2003? Oh, this is so sad.
I don't know.
You know, this can do.
I don't know.
Anyways, early 2000s.
She was recently born.
Yeah, she'd be recently born.
Yeah.
It's crazy. She'd be roughly a teenager right now, this lady, if she existed.
Yeah. Maybe younger even.
How about that?
How about that? Let's think about her some more.
Yeah, and she'd just be like, just a kid walk around going, it's right as rain today. As the kids do in their 2000s.
That's what they're up to.
Yeah.
They go get some food at the I believe it was either called the Better Burger or the Butter Burger. I couldn't quite hear.
I didn't catch it, but I liked everything about this. So what they get, it's clearly some sort of fast food restaurant, which is what you do is there's a screen, and obviously as it looks as good as the 80s can, and you put your hand on the screen and it immediately knows who you are. I'm assuming there's a system that every computer knows who you are. It's not that you've been to this restaurant before. So they put the thing, they know your name, you give the order, and then what you do is you sit at a table, a round table, and the middle of the table comes up and it's got your order in it.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
I mean, it does something else too, because when he puts his hand against it, it like gives him a readout of all the nutrients in his body.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so it basically suggests what you
should eat.
Yeah.
Except for Beanie, when he puts his hand on, it just yells at him for being overdrawn from his accounts.
That's right.
But
it also shames you for free.
It shames you for free. Did you? I tried to write down some of the order. We were watching a VHS sort of transfer, so like some of the audio is a little drowned out. It's not too bad actually, as far as we've watched.
There's a couple.
Worse.
Yeah, there's a couple dropouts.
But Beanie's order was 3 super burgers with extra sauce, NutriShake, ThermoShake, and then a bunch of variations on fries.
And this has been mentioned in the past, but I love seeing future food, and the hamburgers they were eating, or what did they call them?
Super burgers.
Super burgers. They clearly were.
I think they were veggie burgers.
The veggie burgers, because they looked like compressed grass in like a cube in a bun.
Well, the buns were cubes, which was weird.
Yeah, everything was cubed. It's like the old RoboCop where the cups were squares.
What a great idea.
Yeah, right? Why? Why are we not using squares?
And as they're eating, though, their tiny little pager they carry, they get a little message, and they've got to come back to the academy because something's going on. And it's here we get to sort of meet the whole cast that we already went into, minus Captain Brown, of course, because he's off in space somewhere. And at this briefing, we kind of get an idea of what this show is going to be about. All the people here, they all have outstanding achievement records. And they've been selected to serve on the Earth Star Voyager, the newest interstellar ship under the command of Captain Forbes. And they're doing it because Earth is in trouble.
Yeah, I think they say something like the radiation rings are failing or something like that, right?
Yeah, the outer radiation belts, I guess, around near us are at like an all-time high of radiation. So there's not much time left for Earth. So the mission of them is that old Vanguard Explorer that we saw at the beginning, it's been missing now for years. No one knows what happened to it. It's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Before it disappeared, it shot some probes out. And one of those probes found, let me see if I can get the name of this thing.
Oh,
here.
yeah. The planet.
Planet Demeter in the near the Barson star, which can possibly support human life.
Yeah, it might be a suitable Earth replacement.
Yeah. And if it is, it'll take about 40 years to build enough ships to get everyone off Earth to this new planet. And so they need to send a scouting mission there, and that's what the Earth Star Voyager is going to do. 26-year trip.
Round trip.
Yeah, 26-year round trip, even with fusion generators and the Bowman drive.
And they also mentioned, I don't know if it's here or in a couple scenes later, they're going to use cryosleep, which I like. It's great. It at least keeps it in the realm of reality. But did they say they're going to be awake for 2 days and then sleep for 1 day, cryosleep? Is that what they said?
This is kind of what was interesting. They introduced the idea of cryosleep, and you think that's their way of like, oh, now they just don't have to age. It'll be a quick trip and they won't have to age. But what it is it's still a 26-year trip. But for every 3 days, they'll only age 2 days because they'll sleep. So basically, they'll freeze themselves when they go to sleep. So when you sleep for that 8 hours, you wake up. So the idea is they're still going to travel for 26 years, and they will age at that rate, but just like kind of a third, like 2/3 of that instead of like the entire thing.
But I didn't quite get what was the point of that. So instead of being 50 when you get back, you're going to be
35.
Yeah, but
I mean,
why just not age at all?
It's because I don't know.
I guess
think,
they need to fly the ship. That answers that.
Well, that's why it's all kids going. It's because it's such a long journey.
Right.
They'll be adults when they get back. I don't know. I mean, plot wise, I don't actually think it has much to do with anything. I think it's just like, and we'll talk about this as we go through, and we'll see if we agree on this. But the show drops enough, like, I'm sure not like fully real science, but enough like the idea that you'd freeze someone for like the time they sleep so they don't age quite as much when they get back. Like there's just like little elements of like, it's a science fiction-y idea. Like even the Bowman drive, they talk about how it's like a lot, like it's based on some sort of like theory of like elasticity in space, and they never go into details, but all of it I felt like was enough to sound like real enough that it was like science fiction-y, but vague enough that it's that thing that's kind of fun.
But what I liked most about it is that the captain, who's going to be the captain of the ship, he's talking to these young cadets and basically saying, you're the cream of the crop, you're going to be the crew. And he just explicitly says, so here's the deal. I'm in my, let's say 30s, maybe 40s. I'm probably not going to make this trip. So this other guy's going to be captain if I die, which I probably will. And I was like, wow, one, how bad would it be to be a guy in your late 30s, early 40s and have to have a crew of teenagers? And then also just like, you're not coming back.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of what I liked about it was just like it's a long-term space mission where like the idea is like, you'll leave, but you're not going to come back because it's going to take too long.
Right.
Like there are these elements that I found unexpected in a show, and I thought it was going to be just a bunch of kids. I'm like, oh, there's some weird, like not super hard science fiction ideas, but like certainly like this is not Star Wars or like we're going to go out there. I'm not going to come back. It's too far, but I'm here to shepherd you halfway there. And then you'll have to bring yourselves back.
And I don't think I mentioned the person who is going to replace him as captain is Jonathan.
Jonathan, yes. He's our command specialist, so he's kind of next in line for a command. Oh, yeah. And in addition to all that, because of that radiation field around the planet, as soon as they get past it, no more communications with Earth.
Right.
They're off on their own. Like they set up a lot of just like, you're going to go off and you're just going to be all on your own. Once
and they're leaving like immediately, right? Like the next day or something like that.
Yeah, I think they get like 48 hours leave to get themselves ready. And they've all been selected by one person, Admiral Beasley, who they're all shocked to hear is alive. I guess he's just been sailing around out in space for many years. And they kind of talk about, they're worried about going out there because they've heard that the OTZ still has an outpost out there somewhere.
Yeah, the OTZ.
Do you remember what that stands for?
Oh, I wrote it down. It's the
Outlaw
something
Technology Zone.
That's right.
Which apparently used to run half of Earth or something. Like they're like some sort of weird group of militants or something that were like driven off the planet. So like they kind of set up all these like little seeds of like things out there in space they're going to run into. The 48 hours leave, we don't really see much. This is where we see a video phone call where he breaks up with everyone, and then we see like Beanie call his mom and break up with his mom. Like we kind of just see we just see the kids all say goodbye to their families, and we just jump right onto the ship. It's nice. They don't spend any time. They're just like, let's go.
And can I mention one thing about the ship? You get a few shots of there's the basic bridge. You're going to see the bridge, and you see the exterior, and you see a few other kind of rooms that they do stuff in, and we can talk about those when we go. But the main part of the ship seems to be this very large, open, cavernous. It almost looks like a mall without the stores.
Yeah.
And in the middle is this, I'm assuming some sort of engineering core.
Yeah, it looks like a bit of a reactor or something.
Yeah, but like, I couldn't figure out the geography of the ship because it seemed like every time they left a room, that's where they went. So I'm assuming everything's around the edge.
Yeah, I think that's the case because actually when the bridge doors open, you just see right out into that. And it was interesting. I'm like, oh, it's a big open concept main floor with like huge skylights, and I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen that before.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it didn't look bad.
No, I actually I was like, this looks all right. This is an interesting looking interior of a ship. This is where the man you've been so excited to talk about, Brody Arnold, the physical fitness tech. They meet him as they come on. His job is to like keep them in shape for the next 26 years.
Now, let's say you're a teenager, a horny teenager, as we've seen, and you got to go on this thing. You know you're gonna be gone for a long time, and you got to meet a guy who's like a gym teacher. It's the worst. It's the worst part. I'd be like, oh, you guys didn't tell me about the gym teacher.
You got to stay in shape.
Yeah.
And I mean, that gym teacher's going to have a great time.
If it's anything like any of the gym teachers I had in school, it's going to be an awful, awful time.
You are just like Beanie.
I am just like Beanie, yeah.
Because Beanie saw him. And
without the off-the-charts IQ.
Beanie sees him, and he's like so mad that there's a gym teacher there. And he like really treats him like he's a dumb meathead. And I'm just like, why do you think he's stupid? He's probably one of the most elite academy people here just because he like is a physical fitness trainer.
I'm with Beanie.
Yeah, Beanie did not care for him. They go and look at we get a little map of the ship we see, and Beanie like runs down what's there. There's 40 lounges. What are they going to do with those lounges?
Yeah.
3 libraries. Real difference between lounges and libraries.
Yeah.
And Beanie gets so excited about this when he finds it, but he's like, an interdenominational chapel.
I didn't remember that at all.
I was like, Beanie loves church.
It was an interdenominational
chapel, yeah.
Oh, nice.
He was extraordinarily excited about it. And then
you got your Baptist, you got your Lutherans, you got your United Church, anyway.
Keep going. How many can you
name? I got any name. You got your Brethren, you got your Pentecostals.
You really know your sect.
Yeah, thank you. I know my denominations.
And he also notices there's a nursery, which much like you, Beanie's very worried about marriage and having sex with women. So he's just like, that's not mandatory, is it?
So, but they had planned that might happen. They might be having kids in space.
Well, they say it's just like, you guys are like the forefront of like a colonization mission. Like you're good. Like, and it's 26 years from now. Yeah. You're probably going to start families.
Yeah.
Beanie was not prepared for that though.
No. I'd have been like Beanie too. I'd have been immediately nervous and thrown off.
And I mean, Luz and Lana are nearby. Lanny are nearby. I've been like, hey, how about him? Isn't he cute? And you're like, oh no.
I'm off to the interdenominational chapel.
gotta pray to my Lord. But yeah, this kind of like is introducing the ship. We get to see the bridge, and we meet the AI you referred to earlier.
Yeah, Priscilla. Can we talk about what's unique about Priscilla now?
Yeah, let's do it.
So Priscilla is its actual name. It doesn't stand for anything.
Nope.
And you can correct me as we go in this because I'm going to make some mistakes. So Priscilla is essentially a supercomputer AI sort of thing that doesn't run the ship, but is their interface / the computer they're going to speak to.
It can run the ship, but it doesn't have to. Like you can kind of turn it on and off.
But as opposed to most of the sort of things you see, easiest comparison is Star Trek. The computer has a personality, and more than a personality, it's actually based on an actual person. And weirdly, I thought, it was like on someone who died. It's someone who's alive right now.
Yeah. Well, the Bowman drive that's powering the ship, that inventor Bowman built the computer off his daughter's brain. So it has her memories, it has her feelings, it has everything that she is, and it is what runs the ship basically. So it's got a full personality.
But what's weird is that it also has her memories and her feelings about things. So they'll play later on, as I think we mentioned earlier, that she might have a crush on Huxley.
Well, I mean, the Huxley walks on the ship, and the ship is horny for Huxley.
Yeah, what do you think the benefit is? Obviously, having a personality, someone that you feel comfortable working with, is interesting for a computer. But what is the benefit of having like its memories and like what if it has a grudge against someone?
Well, Beanie apparently was involved in the creation of Priscilla, and when it starts like just constantly hitting on Huxley, he's just like, "Oh, we thought this might happen, but I'm a little surprised."
Yeah.
And also like when she's hitting on Huxley, she's like, "I've looked at your record." I'm like, "What's on his record?"
Yeah. And I know he goes like, "How did she access my records?" I was like, "What's the computer?"
His computer, it knows. But I mean,
But yeah, what is
his,
on the
his records have how much of a ladies' man he is?
Yeah, there's a file on love interest, and they just flip through all his conquests as they were.
Or is it just like his medical file? And he's just like hung.
No, it's all the STDs he has. The space STDs.
The computer's really into that?
Yeah. Well, it knows it can't. Nothing can happen to it.
I guess that's true. What does it care?
Yeah.
This guy's a noted lover.
That's true. Yeah.
It'll know how to please this AI.
Yeah.
Anyway,
It doesn't entirely work, but it's an interesting
it doesn't
idea.
work. And as they are about to launch, the Admiral Beasley pops on the screen and kind of gives them a farewell tour. And Admiral Beasley will pop up throughout the show, and it's just the nature of the show. Admiral Beasley is on a different ship. We never really need to see what's happening on that ship other than like kind of what he's up to. So we only ever see him kind of, I guess, in his quarters.
Yeah, he's kind of sitting at a desk with a screen sort of to his side that he keeps.
He can look and talk to his captain or whatever.
But it's like the set they built is all of like a foot behind him.
And his scenes are like they don't really last for more than 30 seconds at a time. So which is fine, but it's just very funny watching them because you're like, oh, this actor came in for one day.
Mm-hmm.
Just like bang, 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 bang these off.
Yeah, he just keeps taking calls.
Yeah, people just call him, he answers a question, and he just goes about his business. The engines boost, which is what they call it. Engines boost, they say.
Engines boost.
Which I actually really liked. And the Earth Star Voyager is on its way.
Can you say that next time you eat something in public and just really loudly pump your fist in the air and go, engines boost?
When I eat something?
Yeah, you took a bite of a sandwich and you've increased your energy. I think you'll make friends all over the place.
All right, well, I'll try it out.
Yeah, try it tomorrow.
I'll try it out tomorrow.
Energy boost. Like that.
Engines.
Engine. Sorry, was the Four Horsemen?
Yeah, the Four Horsemen,
Yeah.
I believe. Their first stop is the junk belt.
When I started watching this, I was like, guys, you got to have stakes better than this. So what basically happens, their first obstacle is they drive into the weirdest looking sort of like, I'm guessing just space garbage is it was supposed to be.
Yeah, it's just space pollution. It's like old satellites and stuff they just tossed into space. Have to drive through it. And we get a nice like computerized visualization of it. Like it's a classic 80s like blue screen with like wireframe things flying at them. And I kind of like, there's an interesting thing because they're flying through it and they're like, put the shields on. And I don't think I've ever seen shields used in this way before, in that they're like, junk's hitting the shields, it's draining power. So the captain's like, hey, flip the shields under intermittent so we're not sucking so much power out. So like the shields are now like turning on and off and just reflecting most of it, but some of it's going to slip through and cause some damage. And I was just like, I don't think I've ever seen the idea of shields worked in this exact way where like that, like usually it's just like they're on
Or they're off.
And I thought it was an interesting way of like thinking about the power supply of it. I don't know. And I think this is a big thing I'm finding in the show I like is like, there's weird ideas that are like, seem science fiction enough and like, oh, that's an interesting thought. I've like never seen that before. And like, I guess it makes sense. I don't know.
Don't you think though, to illustrate that point, they could have come up with a little bit more of an exciting scene? I mean, it's not, the stakes are not high. The drama here is not gripping.
Well, I don't think it's supposed to be that high stakes. Like, it's not like, at no point does it feel like they're never going to get through. It's just kind of like a little like, it's the first stop on their adventure kind of thing. I don't know. It didn't bother me as much anyway.
It didn't bother me. I just thought, there are no banshees.
There are no banshees. Yeah, your favorite show. But it was funny. They do kind of do that annoying thing where they're like, we need to get through it. And Jonathan, who's not the navigator, it's Huxley's the navigator. He takes manual control and like navigates the ship through. And someone does at least comment. They're like, I can't believe a ship this giant could fly through that. Because that was my thing. I'm like, it's too big. You're not going to dodge everything. And it was just weird. I'm just like, he doesn't have to be good at everything. Like, this could have been Huxley doing that. Like, at least he's the navigator.
That's the thing. They have the challenge and the problem that a lot of these shows that have large crews and large casts have, which is there's only so much dialogue to go around. And what I think a mistake they make with these shows, and we've seen it in the past in other shows, is they're so desperate for you to like the lead, the main character. They give them everything, and then you end up with these other characters who don't get developed for episodes and episodes. And even in this, like you mentioned, the two communicators. Yeah, we don't know anything about them.
I mean, Huxley doesn't get much. I mean, Dr. Sally doesn't get much. Like, they really try to focus on Beanie and Jonathan. And I get that they're trying to like set their leads, but it would be nice to just pass it around.
Agreed.
Do you know why he's so good at navigating a junk field?
He did it in the past. What was it?
When he was 7 years old, he was good at dodgeball.
That's what it was, right?
But
those are transferable skills.
Did you think about this as they flew through that junk field? They could really use a quark in this universe. picking up garbage, space garbage. Like
That's
if you got
true.
that much space garbage,
That's
just
true.
call Quark up.
We've mentioned a lot of previous shows so far in this podcast.
I mean, there's elements of a lot of shows we've watched.
That's true.
All right. Well, let's keep going. The ship is minorly damaged from going through this junk field, so they send out a repair crew. Captain Forbes is like, I'm going to go check up on the repair crews down at the airlock, make sure everything's going okay. He wanders down, and they've just finished up, so he walks into the...
I was just going to say, as soon as he gets to the airlock, I was like, he's going to get sucked out of that airlock. The only reason to go to an airlock is to get sucked out.
It is very specific. He's like, I'm going to go look at the airlock repairs. I'm like, this is not going to go well for you.
I know, right? Like, now, if you and I are on a spaceship at any point in our life, Luke, and you're like, can you go check on the airlock? My answer is no.
No, I don't
Absolutely
think so.
not. Why don't you go down? I'm going to go have my square burger here.
But yes, he heads down. He goes into the airlock and is like looking around, inspecting the repairs. And of course, the door slams shut, and the computer tells him, prepare for egress.
Yeah, that's right.
Which I really liked. What I also really like, though, is he's like banging on it and be like, somebody help me. Somebody notice what's happening. And they cut back to the bridge. And it is exactly like if your teacher walks out of the classroom. Like he walked out.
Yeah.
All the kids got off from their stations. They're all hanging out, chatting, leaning on walls, not paying any attention to anything. I was just like, I'm like, this is authentic.
And egress happening.
No one's noticing the alarm going off on a console because as soon as the adult walked out of the room, they're like, "Hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
What did you catch the show?"
That was pretty good.
But eventually, Jonathan does notice there's like an error in the airlock. He heads down just in time to see the captain blowing straight into space.
Yeah.
And this means it's now Captain Jonathan to you.
And like, how long do you think they were in space before the captain went?
6 hours max.
Yeah. He didn't even make it a day.
I mean, this is just J.J. Abrams' Star Trek.
Yeah.
Like this is the exact plot too.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
You kill it. You just put your cadets on. You kill the captain. It's like, now you're the captain. Like, all right, sure, why not? They just didn't have what's that band's name that plays at the start?
Oh, Beastie Boys.
They don't have any Beastie Boys.
Yeah.
I would have improved the show.
This was the time. 88. Beastie Boys are around.
Imagine if they had the forethought to have like a new Beastie Boys song.
That'd be something.
Like, way ahead of their curve. So as they're looking into how the captain was killed, they because originally Beanie gets blamed for not checking the repairs properly. He gets ripped a new asshole for a second.
Yeah, he does.
Jonathan's like, "This is your fault, Beanie." But they find command buried in another program and realize there's some sort of like something's going on. Someone killed the captain on purpose. And Captain Jonathan tracks down our old psychiatrist friend, Dr. Eugene, and kind of like tells him, I need you to go back. I need you to check everybody's biopsych review and see if someone could have done this. And what I like is Dr. Eugene's like, I looked at those. They're fine. What do you want from me? He's like, it's probably a shoddy repair crew. And the captain's just like, I wanted 2 hours, you smart ass.
Oh, no, he says, he's like, no way, that would take like a day to do. And he's like, I said 2 hours. And it's like, did you imagine you're at work and someone asks you to do something? You're like, okay, I could do it. It's going to take all this time. And they go like, I want it faster. Like that happened to me today. Someone's like, you want it faster? I was like, that's great. You want it. It's not going to get any faster. Like that's wonderful. That's what I would have said. I said, that's great. Expect it in 2 hours. I'm going to go eat another square burgers. You're not getting it.
Too bad. 2 hours.
Yeah, it's like great. Good for you.
He just walks. He tries to protest. Just walks away. He's like 2 hours. Goodbye. It is funny though because I actually don't think he checks back in with him for like 48 hours. I think it's the next time we see Dr. Eugene is when he checks in on it. It's like so much time has passed. So the Earth Star Voyager is now, floating through space, and they come across a space station, the Blue Star Gamma, that's been abandoned for 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
Power still going. It was left to be sort of an outpost, I guess, if anyone needed it. And they still need to repair. They need to do some repairs to the ship with extravehicular like repairs. I guess they need to fly around outside. We don't get to see any of that, unfortunately. Right. But as they approach sort of the space station, they also scan it, and the computer tells them, there's a life form on there. Yeah. And I will say, this again was some of the best parts of the show, is the model work here. It was the opposite of Space Rangers that didn't know how to do scale.
I agree.
The Earth Star Voyager, from what we've seen, is a massive ship. And as it comes up to this space station, that space station's at least 1,000 times bigger than it. Like the sense of scale this show has, I was just like blown away. I'm like, someone really cared. Someone cared more than I can believe on this show. Right. Because it looks great. Like it looks like a Star Wars or something.
Do we mention their uniforms?
We haven't.
We're all wearing like classic one-piece outfits.
Yeah. It's a real
I liked
army
it.
crew. Yeah.
I don't really want to see anything other than that, really.
I mean, it just makes sense. Like, they're supposed to
Yeah.
be cadets. Like, why wouldn't they be in a sharp uniform?
Yeah, a nice sharp jumpsuit.
It's very good. Unfortunately, because we don't, unfortunately, maybe it's not unfortunate, we don't get to see the repairs. I don't know why I'm desperate to see these repairs.
You just want to see a show called Space Repairs.
Space repairs. Show me how you repair a spaceship. But what we do see is Captain Jonathan and Huxley do a search of this space station to see if they can find this life form. And this is, of course, when we see this like crazily haired and bearded hobo-looking man.
He looks like a caveman. Like his hair is.
He's Tom Hanks on that island.
Yeah, he looks. He's well. He's been there for 6 years.
He's been there. I've got it written down. 5 years, 7 months, 3 days.
Here's what I'm telling you. What he has not been doing, even though he's had most of the ship and clearly some power in the ship, he's not been able to shave or cut his hair. But what he has been able to do is work out.
Oh yeah, we later see him take off his shirt and he's cut.
Yeah, like surprisingly so.
In fact, they do a medical exam on him at some point and they're like, you just have a slight vitamin deficiency. Like he's been taking very good care of himself, other than his facial hair, covered in lice. But they bump into the Captain Brown from the Vanguard Explorer. He zaps Huxley with some sort of antimatter ray.
Well, no, first he shoots him because they come across him and he's like, like intruders or whatever. He freezes him first.
Yeah, he shoots him. Huxley freezes in like a blue, like, I don't know, like what is force field or something.
And then when he's frozen, he shoots him again. He unfreezes him, but then shoots an antimatter.
No, because he freezes him in this thing. So he's in this like he's frozen in stasis, I guess, because he doesn't remember what's happened. Not moving. He then throws a can at him in the stasis. When the can hits him, it bounces off and hits the floor, and the can melts into an antimatter blob on the floor.
Right.
And I'm like, this is all cool, but I need some more information.
What's weird about it is that it's never explained and never mentioned again.
I have to imagine it'll come back next episode.
Yeah, it must.
They spent so much time setting up the idea that you can put someone into stasis with maybe an antimatter beam, and then if anything touches him while he's in that state, it'll dissolve the thing that touches it into a blob of antimatter that you shouldn't go, because as soon as he's unfrozen, Captain Jonathan's like, get away from that. It's antimatter. Like he just save him. And then after all this happens, this Commander Brown guy comes out and he's like, well, here's my gun. Let's get on your ship.
Let's get back on the ship. Yeah, I know.
It's like, you just assaulted this man.
It was a scene that didn't quite work because just listening to this, what they're going for. It's like he's been by himself for a long time. Yeah. He's maybe not entirely there in his head, but they don't really lean into that enough. So it's like they kind of go halfway where it's like he's a little bit antagonistic. It's like, but let's get in the ship.
I mean, it wouldn't have taken much to make it work. It just kind of never, because he freezes him and unfreezes him, and then he just comes in. They're like, well, let's go. And he kind of just froze this guy. But if he had come down and, they're just like 21 and he had just like thrown his weight around and made like basically kowtow, like it would have been very easy to kowtow them, but like it never quite.
Yeah.
They never quite get there.
Because they really just want, for a show that, it's not that this show's plotting, but the show takes its time. But this is like, they're like, all right, well, let's just get him on the ship. The real thing is they want him on the ship to have this vague position because I'm not sure what he's supposed to be doing on the ship.
Yeah, he's not going to be the captain. Jonathan's going to remain the captain. He is going to be basically an advisor. I think he's kind of going to be the grown-up who advises them, but he doesn't really take command.
Did you notice that he has a particular stance on the bridge that he takes all the time?
No, I didn't.
Which is Jonathan sitting in the command chair, which is sort of by itself and then facing the screen. And every single time, what's this guy's name?
Captain Brown.
Captain Brown is on the ship. He stands with his back to Jonathan, but looks over his shoulder.
Oh, I like it.
Every single time. And I was like, what an odd...
It's so dramatic.
Well, yeah, very, very dramatic stance. Anyway, it's weird that every single time they go to the bridge, that's how he's standing.
There's a lot to like about the actor playing him. He's a lot of fun to watch.
I like him too.
What I do like, they bring him back in the ship and they head straight to the bridge with him. This is where I feel it's just like they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because they walk into the bridge and like there's a big alarm ringing that says alien boarding, alien boarding.
Yeah.
Which it seems like it's more alien like you've crossed the border than it is like
right.
Because the computer immediately scans him and IDs him as Captain Jacob Dryden Brown. Gets the middle name in the middle of the episode.
Oh, but then he also gets to have a real shower scene real quick, so you get to see his ripped body.
You get his ripped body. I know you get a real good look at him.
Did you notice in the showers at one point? Because I can't remember what they call it.
It's an ultrasonic shower.
Yeah, sonic shower. And did you see the part where she's like, "Keep your mouth closed"?
No, I didn't.
She said, "Keep your mouth closed." I was like, "What happens?"
Oh, I guess it's ultrasound. I don't know. You get all that sound in your mouth.
She breaks your teeth.
Yeah, just
like a cartoon cat, like it's Tom and Jerry. The teeth just shatter.
That'd be pretty good. What I do like is he gets on the ship and kind of he cleans up, gets a nice beard on, and he's like inspecting the crew, and he's just like, And this is like, it's like a ship full of kids, right? And he looks around and he's like, what is this? The good ship kindergarten? Like, where am I? And I did like his just complete incredulousness to what's happening.
Yeah.
Because here's a person who arguably went on the same mission, just fly out into space forever. They didn't load his ship with kids.
Right.
He's just like, what is going on? Like, I've been gone 6 years. What's happened? Why are kids in charge now?
Yeah. And again, they sort of don't quite land on what he's supposed to be, but he does sort of becomes an advisor. But it's weird that they're like, yeah, here, take a uniform, and you're now part of the crew. I mean, to be fair, what else are they going to do? He has the training.
They ID him as an actual captain. Like, if anything, they
Right.
should be like, oh, I guess this is your ship? Like, we're children.
Yeah, well, fair enough.
He's nice of him not to take command. That's all. He's quite I guess, accommodating to these children.
He's too busy exercising later.
That's true. Or, as we learn in this exact same scene, fighting with the computer who he used to date.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they did that too.
He gets on and the computer's just like, ugh, this guy. You can't trust this guy. And he's just like, that voice. Priscilla? And he's just like, it's just a computer. It's not the real Priscilla. He's like, oh my God, I used to date the computer.
It's just such an odd choice.
It's, you know what? I've never seen so much stuff with an AI before, like so much backstory.
Yeah.
It's very funny. Although you have to imagine then, so if she used to date him, he's just Huxley then, right? He's just got the same attributes that this computer loves.
Well, how old is the computer too? Because Huxley and Brown are vastly different.
Well,
in age.
I had that thought the entire time too, because I'm like, if you dated Huxley or Brown, he's 36. This kid is 18 maximum. Like, lady, I think we have to worry about it. I think you've got a problem.
Wow.
As you mentioned, though, he does. Captain Brown does head over to the gym to work out with the phys ed teacher.
And now I have to say, I think this might be my favorite thing in the show.
This is so much mime work here.
Yeah. So
I walked in, I'm like, there's going to be a lot of mime work in this gym, huh?
So what I like about this is not only do you see it once, but they go back to it again. And so what this is
it's going to be a regular set.
Yeah, they really are playing with the idea that you're living here. This is your home, and there's a lot of upkeep training that you need to do. And one of those is, as we've mentioned, there's a physical instructor. So they all go to the gym to work out. But I'm assuming it's a little bit of, wouldn't it be fun in the future if we have this? And it's a little bit of, maybe there's not as much space for actual physical space for stuff. But what we have is they're working out with sort of like little sensors on their hands.
Little suction cups when they put on your hand.
And there's also, you also see later on, there's like a little cube they maybe put on the floor, and that's maybe projecting. But what it is it's giving you the resistance of a weight. So you see people like curling weights and stuff, but there's nothing.
The gym teacher has a tablet, and he kind of sets, like, I guess,
Right.
what the sensors on your hand are giving you, like, pressure-wise.
The resistance or whatever. And so you're doing weights without.
Yeah, you're seeing people miming lifting weights.
And it goes on forever. The scene of them exercising, and I just could not stop watching the people in the background because they had to do so much mime working out. It was wonderful.
It was a lot of fun. Like, even when the phys ed teacher gives Captain Jonathan more weight and he has to, like, pretend like the thing he's holding got heavier, I'm just like, this is crazy. You guys have to do so much mime work on this show. But like, I love the choice to be like, everybody, when you come here, you're pretending.
And there is a scene, I don't know if it's this one or later on, I think it is this one, where I'm never going to remember his name.
Brown
comes in, and he just clearly checks out all the women.
Yeah.
He just walks in, he just like looks at one woman's butt, then another one's butt. And there's another one like bending over. He's like, yeah, maybe the ship's not so bad.
I mean, in the future, it's the age range has gone off. Like, some bad policies have come into place. But a little bit we see in this too is because Captain Jonathan's working out, the comms lady Lanny drops by and she whispers to him. She's like, "Hey, you should investigate that very suspicious psychiatrist we have on here. I think he might be involved in that airlock thing."
And then he's like, "Why?" And she's like, "Just trust me."
She's like, I have a feeling." And now, not to spoil too much, but like, we'll come to learn he was not involved. But I did think at this moment, I'm like, are we introducing latent psychic powers?
I thought the same thing.
I'm not sure we're not either. I think we may come back and there may be latent psychic powers at some point.
I thought the same thing, and then I thought, I was just projecting what I wanted into the show.
But she even says, because she's like, "How do you know?" And she's like, "I just have feelings, and like my feelings are usually right." Like, she really they butter up this idea. It's like, is there going to be latent psychic activity? Who's to say?
I don't think there will be.
Who's to say?
Here's what I'll tell you: there will be more. Mime weightlifting.
I mean, there is more in this episode.
In this episode, that's true.
But speaking of the conspiracy to kill the old captain, back on this bridge, they pick up on their sensors, their radar, that there's like some ship on the very edge of it that's kind of following them. And what we come to learn, not the crew, of course, of the Earth Star Voyager, but the audience learns that it's the Trident Corsair, Admiral Beasley's ship, and he's sort of following them the entire episode. We'll cut back and forth to him, and he kind of knows everything that's happening. Like, he knows the captain's dead. He's like, they're following, they're watching them, and they seem to imply there's some sort of like conspiracy, and he's responsible for what's happening on the ship, so he's got his own agents on there. It's an interesting idea. Like, do you think the subtext here, because he chose everyone who's going to be on the ship, is there some sort of social engineering aspect going on?
I'm not sure. I mean, we'll find out, I think, as we get into the next episode. But they're clearly playing with something. I mean, maybe it is a little of that. I don't know if I quite understand what they're going for.
This is just coming to me like right now off the top of my head. But do you think maybe the long game of this show is that A, there is no planet, or B, when they get there, it would be revealed that like the rest of Earth can't come. Like, we've been socially engineering you to be the only colonists.
I think it's something along that. I think what it is the reason they're going for is not the reason that they've been sent for. That's at very least going to be that.
Because Admiral Beasley's never set up as like villainous exactly. Because he's never really like a messenger, but he's not to something.
He's not trustworthy.
But yeah, but like he seems like, it's not like, oh, I'm gonna get these kids. Or like it seems to be like he's doing something, and like certainly he thinks it's good what he's doing. So like, I don't know. There seems to be some weird subtext. I keep trying to I'm like, where are they going with this? I'm curious.
We'll see if they if it follows
we get a little
through.
more in the next in the next TV movie. They're worried about the ship that's following them, though, because they don't know what it is, and they reveal they only have hand weapons on the ship, or they do have some long-range weapons, but they haven't been assembled.
Is that what they said?
They're like, it'll take 3 months to assemble these long-range weapons we brought with us.
That's one of the downsides of sending a crew within 48 hours.
You didn't finish the ship.
Yeah, there's not enough time.
But Captain Brown offers to make them a railgun to defend themselves.
That's right.
And Beanie's assigned to be his helper on it.
Yeah, they really want to build it. They're like, he's his sidekick. They're gonna be they're grouping off, and that's gonna be the team you're gonna like. These two that play off each other.
Yeah, I mean, they do a little, and the whole thing is like them bonding over them building this, and like how Beanie had a tough time at the academy because he was such an oddity. They studied him, and like he develops empathy for this kid, and like it is. Yeah, they're like, oh, these two are gonna have a father-son sort of relationship.
Right. He's gonna show him how to nail that computer.
No, he's into the comms lady.
Right, that's right.
It's Huxley who wants to. Well, Huxley doesn't want it either. Huxley's afraid of the computer.
Yeah, the computer doesn't know what's happening.
The computer is a little aggressive. But Lanny from comms, the one who warned us about the psychiatrist, she's going to get what's coming to her for trying to rat him out.
Now, let me ask you. So what we learn is there's some sort of malfunction again in the ship. The second one now we've seen. First the airlock, and now this. And what it is something goes wrong with her cryo sleep.
Yeah.
And the result of which is that she doesn't die, but she's not in good shape. So she's injured enough mentally or whatever it is that
she goes to sleep.
She can't
in the
wake
cryo
up.
thing. We see someone come in and mess with the controls. Captain Jonathan sees a flashing light, runs down to try to save her, and Dr. Sally shows up, and they say the executive says she's fallen below the threshold of consciousness, and there's nothing they can do to help her. They can just put her back into cryosleep, and hopefully she'll heal herself in cryosleep.
But I didn't understand how she got injured to begin with.
I think it was just the guy came in. I think he just like it's probably something like turning down the oxygen or something. It's just like some sort of tweaking of the cryosleep chamber basically. And it seems like a lot of, like they said, like anyone with level 4 clearance or above can do this. And I'm like, you guys need to like
figure this out.
That's a little too. I think people if you can kill someone in their sleep, maybe you should have higher access levels to it.
Point being, she's out of the show now. Like, she's just asleep. She's just a body in the background.
She's some sort of coma now. I mean, we'll see if she stays that way. But as soon as they put her out, I was just like, this is your only person of color on this show. And did you just kill her?
Yeah. Well.
Classic 1988.
It's 88, yeah.
Now that she's kind of been taken out of it, someone took her out. Captain Jonathan's really going to take this Dr. Eugene, the psychiatrist, as the bad guy theory a little more seriously.
Yeah, he really goes for it, and he really reams the guy out.
Well, he like chases him down, and he's just like, oh, hey, Captain, I'm almost done those reports you want. And he's just like, I don't trust you. He's just like, oh, hold on, man. Let me tell you really quickly. I I think calling Beanie is going to really affect his self-esteem. Like they start talking, like
Yeah.
the psychiatrist starts telling him about Beanie and like how they probably shouldn't give
He's
him
just
the nickname.
desperate to talk to someone.
He's like trying to fill him in, and I'm just like, all right, Captain, just get to it. Tell him he's a killer. And then the captain gets paid. He's like, well, I gotta go. I'll finish this later.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, well, definitely. There's lots to tell you, but we'll wait till later.
I'm pretty sure you murdered someone, but
Yeah.
I gotta go deal with something.
Yeah.
As Huxley says, the computer's having a fit. But what it is the computer is freaking out because there's another error in that that airlock.
Could you believe there's gonna be 2 airlock disasters in one show?
Well, I mean, they built the set.
Again, I'm never going to an airlock. Never.
It's where the railgun's kept too. But he runs down to check on the airlock and the railgun, and we discover the true culprit of this whole conspiracy on the ship.
Yeah, it's the gym teacher.
Classic move. It's
Of course it
always
was.
the gym teacher.
And what I liked about this scene though is, so the airlock is not very big. It's a
real Raymond Chandler, eh? It's the gym teacher.
yeah. It's that's funny. The room is maybe like 8 by 8, let's say. It's not a big room, and right in the middle of the room is it's the gun thing.
It's the
right?
railgun, yeah, the
railgun, which takes up most of the room.
Yep.
But you still want this fight scene between the two of them. So there's a lot of them very Benny Hill sort of running around the gun and then jumping over the gun and trying to fight. But it's just like, it's hard to choreograph the fight because there's not enough room. And I really enjoyed that, just how clumsy it was.
I mean, and they kept it short at least.
Yeah.
It doesn't go very long. Like, I looked away for 5 seconds to make a note. When I looked up, the captain was blowing the gym teacher out the airlock. And I'm like, all right, it's over, I guess.
Yeah, they're fighting to who's going to do it. And then last minute, the captain
Gets outside the door.
He gets outside the door, closes the door, and the other guy blows out. And we get to see the exact same scene of someone blowing out of an airlock.
Get ready for egress, my friend.
Yeah. You're going to also say that when you go to the washroom. So what do you say at first? Power up? What is it you say?
Engines boost.
Yeah, engines boost. And then you say egress out or whatever. Anyways, doesn't matter.
You're not even here right now. So it turns out when he goes back to apologize to the psychiatrist for accusing him,
Right, yeah.
that gym teacher Brody's psychic evaluation had been forged. Dr. Eugene actually had been looking for him to tell him this. So when the captain stopped him, he wanted to call him a murderer, and the psychiatrist wanted to be like, "Oh, someone's forged." But neither of them got around to the point before they ran away from
because
each other.
as per usual, the conversation of Beanie is so interesting. They had to get that out of the way first.
We got to talk about this nickname he has. And they also have found a particle beam transmitter hidden on the ship, which is theoretically sending their location to whatever the ship that's following them is. So they decide it's time to lose the ship that's following them. So they shove that in the railgun and just blast it into space. And what Admiral Beasley sees is they've changed course dramatically.
Yeah, it's clearly the homing signal that they've been following.
So they go to follow it. I just have a quick question for you, because Beasley's change their ship's course. Let's keep following them. As his little comm shut off, he looks out into space and he's just like, Huxley, get that ship back on a course. Do you think that's just him being like, Huxley, you're the navigator, what are you doing? Or do you think, is that an implication that Huxley's another mole?
That's what I thought. I don't know if it's a mole, but I think he's
he may have been given some
he's been given some sort of secondary mission.
Right by this guy. I kind of felt the same way, but I was like, maybe not. There's some intrigue. There's some intrigue on the show.
It's not bad.
And you know what? That really feels like that wraps up a plot for an episode, right? They found them all.
You would think.
Covered it all up.
But then they're like, you know what? Time to get into second gear.
There's we still got 20 minutes left.
Yeah.
Why don't we start a new episode? We're already here.
Yeah. It did feel like a weird, there should have been an end there. And they went, nah.
It's funny because basically what we're watching is 2 TV movies, right?
Yeah.
And they're each an hour and a half approximately.
Mm-hmm.
3 hours, 3 episodes. Halfway, at the end of it feels like maybe they originally wrote 3 episodes.
You're probably right.
Restructure this into 2 TV movies for us, because it did feel like a complete solid end to a show that really sets up an entire pilot, and then we kind of get off on just a new adventure.
A new adventure, which we don't finish.
Yeah, we just stop halfway through.
Yeah,
100%. What they get is a distress call coming from Expo Tomorrow.
Is that what it was called?
It's
Expo Tomorrow.
It was a satellite built as the last World's Fair venue.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
In 2020.
Oh, wow.
Next year.
Next year's the final expo.
Yeah, and it's on a satellite in space.
Wow, everyone better get their act together.
It's true. Unfortunately, the final World Fair was a huge failure, so they abandoned the satellite and ejected it into space.
As you do.
It's like, well, that didn't work. I don't know, just fired off into space.
Well, they figure there's so much space garbage out there anyway. Just add to it.
But, they get a distress signal, so let's investigate. Let's get the Scooby Gang together. They take a shuttle down to the satellite, and it's actually great. I don't know how you felt, but it is the Vancouver Expo 86 Soviet Pavilion.
Mm-hmm.
So they're shooting on location at this old pavilion. It looks fun.
Yeah, it looked fun. My note was that it looked like the underground world from Little Monsters, which might just be for me. I said that to Laura, and she just walked out of the room, so she wasn't as interested as I was. But it also has a bit of that feel that we've seen in a couple of the low-budget shows. What comes to mind is Tech War. Remember that one weird episode where there was just a bunch of floats and stuff?
I do.
Because what this sort of world, let's call it a world ship or whatever, it's just all black. So the walls are black, the floor is black. So it's hard to tell. It's not defined as where anything is. But in the middle of it is just weird rides and bits of like cars. You kind of see like ships
old planes and
yeah.
things. I mean, because they establish it. I mean, it's probably why they established it as a World's Fair satellite. Because they're like, it's going to look like a World's Fair once we got there. I thought it was at least they're like, whatever, is what it is. So let's just write around it. And eventually they'll do flip on the lights and you'll get to see a little bit more of it.
Yeah.
And yes, it definitely looks like a World's Fair set, but it kind of is fun. Like, it's at least fun to look at. Like,
it's interesting looking. There's like planes and stuff in the background.
It's weird. And like, and what we're going to find is this distress signal is sent out. But it's an OTZ trap.
Classic. Isn't that a classic OTZ trap?
Yeah. The mysterious malicious group we heard about at the beginning has we're finally going to meet some of them. And, they're trying to capture passing ships, I guess.
They come across a guy he looks like he's just like collecting garbage or something. Yeah. And the old Captain Brown recognizes him as an old crew member.
Well, I think he's the guy he shot out of the airlock originally.
Oh, okay. I didn't. Anyway, so that's him. But he's got a beard now too, as you do if you stuck in space. And they like have their little reunion, but yes, you find out they've been constantly sending out distress signals, which you've seen in sci-fi shows before.
Yeah. It's a classic plot.
Yeah. You send out distress signals, you get people there, and they're like, no, let's get back up to your ship. But before they get to the ship, they get attacked by like circus people. That's what they look like.
Well, it is true. What comes out is like people in like the thrift store version of the Warriors or something.
It was they're very colorful and interesting looking.
It's that post-apocalyptic Mad Max. You kind of they just wear whatever they can find. What was kind of interesting though is, and I don't know if you caught all of this, but like they come out, they capture them, and the guy who's kind of they met beginning kind of explains that like, oh, these are warrior guilds. This is like a warrior society, and it isn't technically the OTZ. Apparently the OTZ is underground, he says.
Oh, I thought it was the OTZ.
Well, that's what I thought initially too, but there's a line about the OTZ is underground working in labs. These are just the warrior guilds. Like these are just kind of maybe some like they are, I think, some barbarians that they kind of like keep to defend them. Maybe I think we'll find out more next episode. But they imply that this isn't like the real OTZ.
But they're like the Foot Clan to Shredder, who we're gonna see very soon.
Well, not only are they that, they're the old crew of Captain Brown. Like these are the old crew. In fact, they're run by their leader is Old Vance.
But he's gone. Not only has he gone crazy, what has he done to his hair?
He is bald except for a huge ponytail on the back of his head.
Yeah, but it's like a puffy ponytail.
Yeah, it's insane.
And he also wears like, well, what would you describe his jacket? It's like it's 3 sizes too big, at least in the shoulders.
Well, it's like huge 80s shoulder pads, all white. It's like a white suit jacket that's really long to the waist with just huge shoulder pads in it.
Yeah, it's sort of like he raided like Steve Harvey's like wardrobe.
Exactly. And Vance has also changed his name.
What is it now?
He goes by Top Dog now.
He goes by Top Dog?
Yeah, because what we come to learn is this is like a warrior society, sort of like the Fremen in Dune or something, where you can battle for supremacy, and like some dude with a stick will challenge him to a battle, and it's like
that's too spot on though.
Top Dog.
Yeah.
And it's great. He's sitting in like a Thunderdome-esque room where he has he has to climb down a set of stairs.
But he doesn't climb down. Every single time he jumps down one level and then jumps down another level very impressively. Basically like if you want to fight me, did you just see what I did? I just jumped down like 6 feet.
It's very like Star Trek, the original series, like battle.
Yes,
like,
it is.
It's funny because coming from the first part of this episode, It's a little more serious and a little more like science oriented and a little more like TNG.
It takes a shift.
And then it's sort of the second episode is like it still has those elements, but it introduces the idea that like, oh, there's going to be weird characters that are a little more like original series or something you're going to bump into. But anyway, Top Dog fights this dude with a stick. They fight over a pit because that's like you can fall in the pit if you fight.
Yeah, they establish very quick, as you said. So it's a warrior race. There's some sort of whoever wins.
You beat the leader, you're the leader.
Yeah, but like you're not going to beat this guy because he's got this like a little silver wrist thing that he can essentially in the middle of the fight. The guy's trying to fight him, and he just immediately shoots out.
Yeah, his bracelet shoots lasers,
and it just like knocks the guy down, and they're like, fight over.
Here's my question for you: did Stick Guy not know he had that?
I thought the same thing. I was like, you must have seen him have other fights. He's clearly going to use that move, but you just
showed up with a stick.
For it.
You showed up with a long stick.
I know. Come up with a shield.
It was very funny. I saw it. I'm just like, Stick Guy. You must have known that was coming.
Yeah. Anyways, the battle ends real quick.
It ends really quick. And we'll do a quick cutaway here because they cut back up to the ship and they left Beanie in charge, as you do.
He's panicking a bit.
And and Admiral Beasley has like tracked them down since they shot that thing off because they found the transponder. They're like, they lost us. So that little blip comes them on the radar, and Beanie's like, "You guys, we got to run away and hide." And they're like, "But Captain Beanie, acting Captain Beanie, they're down on the planet." He's like, "They'll find us. So let's go hide."
Yeah, so they take off.
They take off, and I'm like, "Well, I guess we'll find out what happens next." But like,
so that's plot line off on that distance.
That ship's gone.
Yeah,
we come back to this to the expo. Old Captain Brown, he wants revenge on Top Dog for the mutiny from earlier.
Yeah.
And he's also kind of got a plan to help the kids get away. Huxley pickpocketed a guy who walked by, and so he has the keys to the cage they're locked in.
Yeah. I think that was the scene to show that he was good with magic.
Oh, right, the magic thing.
He can also grab coins.
It all comes together in the end. You're so smart, Jordan.
Thanks. Off the charts.
Yeah, we can't even test how smart you are. It's impossible.
The arrow just goes to the edge of the page and just
keeps falling off the bottom. But yeah, what here? Captain Brown's like, I'll challenge this guy to a fight to the death. When I do that, you guys use that chance to break away and run away, and then I'll meet you at the ship and we'll escape or whatever. This is where it kind of ends in his cliffhangers. Like they fight, him and Top Dog fight for a few minutes, and it sort of ends with like Captain Brown's head hanging over the pit and Top Dog like leaning him over.
But he gets to kick him a few times. That's his move.
Yeah. There's a bit of a little fight. They kick. He shoots his laser.
And we end on that cliffhanger of like, what's gonna happen? The ship's flown away. These guys are fighting. The other guy has a key.
Let me tell you what's gonna happen because Top Dog is over like Captain Brown's on his back.
I know.
Top Dog,
we all know what's gonna happen.
Flip him over his back and fall in the pit. It's like, I'm like, all right, let's do it already. Anyway, but
also, why didn't he just use his little laser right away in the fight?
He was trying to show.
He's showboating.
Captain Brown.
That's classic Top Dog.
Top Dog. He still has a grudge against Captain Brown. We don't know. Captain Brown is probably a bad captain.
He might be. That mutiny might have been worth it.
It might have been totally justified.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how kind of the episode of this pilot TV movie wraps up. As a little to be continued pops up, and they're like, "Come back next week for the conclusion of this fight over a pit."
Yeah. Neil, let me ask you before we get into the ratings.
Mm-hmm.
It's 1988.
Mm-hmm.
You're 6 years old.
Yes.
You might be a little young for this. But if you had been watching this at the time, like this was Star Trek had just started. I remember when Star Trek Next Generation started, and I was watching it. And that was, 87? Something like that?
Yeah, this is probably like 6 months after Star Trek
so
Next Generation?
Would you have, and I read that this was one of the things that they rushed to air because Star Trek was popular, and they're like, we need a Star Trek. Whether that's true or not, I'm not sure yet. But would you have watched this thing?
Yeah.
I probably would have too.
I think I said it, like it's just sciencey enough. Like there's just enough like good ideas in there. They're not fully developed yet, but there's just like enough like here's how society works and here's how the ship's engines work, and like none of it feels like someone cared. It feels like it's the opposite of Space Rangers. Like people thought about what it was going to do and how that was going to work, and I do appreciate that about it. I honestly, when we started watching and it was like all those kids, I legitimately was like, when all the kids' ages came up, I was just like, this is going to be unwatchable. And I found it to be much more engaging than I thought it was ever going to be, for sure. I mean, listen, it's not high art, but it has those elements of like an Ender's Game or something, or maybe a Space Bum Beyond, like something in between those. It's not as well developed exactly, but it's kids in space, but they're not as precocious and like
it's
cloying as you think.
They're kids, but just because the reason they need them to be for the whole thing, they're for the age they need to be to make this trip, but they don't push into it any more than they have a couple scenes where they're like, I might have a crush on someone.
Yeah, but I mean, they're also not like annoyingly smart or too adult either. Like, I don't know. I found that it was. There's a few ways this could have gone where it would have just been like unbearable, and it managed to like thread the needle a little bit anyway for me. Well, let's rate it.
Well, you go first.
Like I've said, I think I was pleasantly surprised by this. It was a lot more fun. There's a lot more nuance to it than I ever expected. It's an 8.5, I think.
Oh my! It's not an 8.5.
Oh, I would recommend people watch this.
Here's what I say. I think this would have benefited tremendously for cutting out about a half an hour.
What if they just dropped that last half and had 3 episodes?
Yeah. Well, but that's not what this is. This is an hour and a half episode.
But I still think it's
I thought there was parts of it I quite liked. I found the wooden acting and some of the dialogue a little bit just bothered me. And I don't think they developed a lot of stuff. I'm only going to go with a 6.5.
That's insane.
Is it? Is it insane?
You've given much worse shows much better.
I thought for the amount of content they had, they jammed it all. I know you're probably right. This was probably 3 episodes. They jammed all the interesting stuff in the last bit. It felt like there was a long setup to get to a cliffhanger.
I'm just surprised because we have watched, even in the last year, much worse programming than this.
Yeah, there's been worse programming.
I would actually say this may be one of the best things we've watched this year.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Name what was better. Planet of the Apes?
Planet of the Apes was better. I think there was.
That's it.
There was some solitary episodes of things that were probably better than this.
I don't know if there were.
I'd have to look at the list.
I think for me this might be a high point for the year this year.
Different strokes.
Yeah, a 6.5. You're out of your mind.
Well, it's definitely not an 8.5.
I mean, I honestly think it is an 8.5. It's almost.
Well, I know you do. I know you do.
It's almost a 9.
No, it's so not. You could. So of a 9, this show, this hour and a half show where they walk around the ship is almost a 9.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, well, there we are.
I very much enjoyed it.
Well, that's good.
Fight.
No, we're not fighting.
Let's kick each other.
We got another hour and a half. But right now we're coming at an average of that's about a 7.
Yeah, it's 7.5.
So sure, 7.5. Sure, that's not so bad.
All right. Well, if you for some reason happen to catch this when it was on and have any memories or thoughts about Earth Star Voyager from 1988,
That watched those 2 weekends in a row.
Yeah, 2 weekends. You can email us at continuumdrag. I always do this wrong. Continuumdrag@gmail.com. The Twitter and Instagram handles are at continuumdrag, where we'll have some clips from the show up there. But I guess next week we'll come back. We'll finish it off. We'll see how this all wraps up.
We'll see if you go down, I go up.
Who knows? Who knows?
You never know.
Probably. I usually go down. You usually go up.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
But Jordan, it was fun this week. See you next week.
I'm interested to see how this ends.
Great. See you then.
See you then.
Continuum Drag is recorded in Toronto, Ontario. Theme music by James Rick Seidler. Produced by Jordan Delic and Luke Black. Special thanks to Aaron Yunes, Adam Wheatner, Jeff Hanley, Jane McRae, and Stephen Packard.